the Environment Committee for today, the 8th of March. And I will call the meeting to order. And before we get too far down the line, I'll read the chair's statement, which is that the Met Council Chair has determined that it is not practical or prudent to conduct in-person meetings in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Accordingly, committee members will participate in this meeting via phone, as was just mentioned, or other interactive technology, and the meeting will be conducted under Minnesota Statute Section 13D.021. We encourage everyone to monitor this meeting remotely, and if you have comments, we encourage members of the public to email us at public.info@medstate.mn.us. And with that,
Chair?
yeah.
Chair, excuse
Oh,
me.
you want to do a roll call?
Yes,
Please.
This is Susan Taylor. We should do a roll call for the record.
Let's do it.
Fredson?
Here.
Sterner? Councilmember Sterner?
Here.
Thank you. Vento?
Here.
Wolf?
Here.
Zarin?
Present.
And Lindstrom?
Here.
Thank you.
All righty. And so we have agenda before us, and without objection, we'll move forward with this agenda. First item is approval of the minutes from February 8th, 2022. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
Wolf moves approval.
Lindstrom, this is, I'll second. Sterner second.
Roll call, please.
Fredson?
Aye.
Sterner?
Aye.
Vento?
Aye.
Wolf?
Aye.
Zarin?
Aye.
And Lindstrom?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. And nothing on our consent agenda this afternoon, and just one item on our non-consent agenda, and that's the 2022-67 Joint Powers Agreement with the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency for the Watershed Outlet Monitoring Program. This is contract 17G000, and I think we may have a presenter or two.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Daniel Henely. I'm the Assistant Manager of our Water Resource Section. And like was just stated, here to present business item 2022-67. It's a joint powers agreement with the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency for our Watershed Outlet Monitoring Program, often shortened to WOMP. And this is a contract started back, the contract goes back to 2018, so that's why it's got the 17 there. But next slide, please. I'll give some history now. So this does go back a ways, the WOMP 2 program, and I'll get into maybe the WOMP 1 versus WOMP 2, but the Watershed Outlet Monitoring Program dates back to 1998, and the difference here is that this is a partnership directly with the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. Funding has shifted slightly when the Clean Water Funds came through, and so that's a funding source switch. And since 2007, it's been funded with that money. And like a lot of our stream program, it's used in our regional assessments here at the council. Local watershed management organizations utilize the data, and actually in the WOMP cases, we're direct partners with the local watershed districts and counties. And then that data is also used directly by the MPCA, Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, on evaluating impairments and pollutant loads across the state. Next slide, please. So background for this specific agreement and the joint powers agreement is this is going to be the 5th year of the agreement. So we started back in 2018, and that was originally a $300,000 joint powers agreement for that 2-year period. We had a similar amendment like I'm here today to present, where it extended it for 2 more years, the 2020 through 2021. That added some more money and extended the duration. So as you can see, we're coming up on March 31st, 2022. And so we are looking to extend this, and due to some kind of maximums at the MPCA, the 5-year cap will be hit. And so this is a 9-month amendment to kind of fill out the rest of that 5 years through the end of December of 2022. And then I might be back here in somewhat short order to talk to you about another 2-year joint powers agreement that will start. We're planning on having it start January 1st, 2023. That's kind of the scope. Next slide, please. This is kind of just a graphic, a way to visualize our stream program here at the council in our water resources section. And the blue colored watersheds are within this watershed outlet monitoring program 2, so WAMP 2. And the rest there, the yellows in the Minnesota River Basin, they've been run by Met Council staff since 1989. And the greens, the light greens, are what we call our WAMP 1. They're similar, where we work directly with a partnering organization like a watershed district. They might collect the samples and bring it to our laboratory, and we analyze the data and provide that coordination and training. So this is, essentially kind of like a third of our monitoring program is funded with this joint powers agreement. Next slide, please. So the proposed action today is that the Metropolitan Council authorize its regional administrator to negotiate and execute an amendment of contract 17G000 with the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency to extend the termination date to December 31st, 2022, and accept clean water funds from the Minnesota legislature in the amount up to $100,000. Next slide, if there's any questions.
Any questions? First of all, WAMP 1 and WAMP 2 sounds like they should be Dr. Seuss characters.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There is something poetic, and we also have our camp program that I've presented to you as well for our lake monitoring. So we like the kind of rhyming.
Yeah, someone should do like a council-wide best acronyms. This would be right up there, I would think. Very good. Any questions? And is there a motion?
Wolf moves
Vento
approval.
moves approval. Go ahead, Wendy.
I think I got it all out before I hit mute again, didn't I?
We'll accept the motion from Councilmember Wolf and seconded by Councilmember Vento. A roll call, please.
Fredson,
Aye.
Sterner,
Aye.
Bento,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Zarin,
Aye.
and Lindstrom.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. And on to our information agenda, which is the 2021 Sac Performance Report. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Chair Lindstrom and members of the committee. My name is Ned Smith. I'm the Director of ES Pretreatment and Finance. What I want to do today is just give an overview of SAC performance for 2021. It's a pretty good story. So I wanted to share where our units landed and what that means for our reserve and what some next steps are for us. Next slide, please. So we'll jump straight to the punchline. Our SAC units have continued growth. So 2021 was an outstanding year at 26,035 units. That is the highest it's been in 35 years. To get any higher, you'd have to go back to the early 80s. So some great growth there. That's in terms of units. In terms of revenue, it's off the charts because our rates were much lower back in the 80s. So very strong growth, and I'll walk you through in a minute where the trends that we're seeing, but just great to see this continued economic recovery, particularly in light of the pandemic. We certainly had a little bit of a dip in 2020, but even that was still a pretty strong year, and it's great to see it rocketing back to be almost on trend. Next slide, please. So what that does for our SAC reserve balance is it puts us at a very healthy position. Just as a brief reminder for how SAC works, every year we figure out how much SAC should pay as a portion of our debt service. So our debt service is basically our mortgage payment for our outstanding debt. And let's say it's about 150 million a year, which it moves around, but let's just use that for easy math. And what we do is we figure out what portion of the system is quote unquote empty or is available for capacity. And right now it's about at a third. Again, it's actually, 34.223, but whatever. We call it a third. So on $150 million debt service, we expect SAC to pay 50 million of that. So what we do is we go through the year, we collect our SAC units, and then the cities pay us for those SAC units, and the reserve builds up. And at the end of the year, we pull out what SAC owes, which would be $50 million. For 2021, we collected more than $50 million. And so that causes our SAC reserve balance to go up. So the other number you see here is our minimum target. That is our policy minimum. And that is basically the average of 5 years of anticipated SAC payments, our SAC reserve transfers. So you can see we are quite healthy. We are well above our minimum target. And we have, again, seen continued growth in 2021. Some of the things we're doing to make good use of, be good stewards with that money. One is we are using it to help provide rate relief for our operating budget by using some of our SAC reserve to help pay for PAYGO. Now that is, generally SAC is not allowed to be used for operating expenses like headcount or consulting or utilities, but we can use it for PAYGO because PAYGO is basically prepaying your debt service. Because PAYGO is, again, that's using our funds, operating funds, to pay for capital projects that we otherwise would have financed. So if you are preventing us from financing, from borrowing bonds or PFA loans, then you're basically still paying debt service. You're just paying it in advance. Now, it gets a little tricky because we do need to therefore track it, and we need to give SAC credit for those prepayments as we figure out the SAC transfer each year. But fundamentally, we are using that as a tool to help us manage our rates in our budget. The other thing that we'll be using this for is, should a recession come, and at some point it must, due to the history of economics, there will be a recession. SAC activity will decline. And so we'll be able to use that reserve to keep our SAC rates flat, so that we do not have to raise SAC rates at per unit SAC rates during a recession when people are struggling to develop. So based on that, it takes a crystal ball. We don't know what the units are going to be during the recession. Is it going to drop to 15,000 or is it going to drop to 6,000 like it did back in 2008? But we are keeping an eye on that, and we are always monitoring what the trends are for SAC to figure out how is the best way to manage that going forward. But we do see this as a great tool we can use to keep our SAC rates flat even during a recession. Next slide, please. So I wanted to show here where is that growth coming from. The brown reddish line is our residential. So that could be an apartment, that can be a house, that can be a multi-family, a duplex, a triplex, anything like that. One residential unit is equal to one SAC unit. So that's the development that we're seeing in the Twin Cities. As you can see, even during 2020, with the pandemic, it was still pretty healthy. We were still getting some good residential activity. You can also see in 2020, though, our commercial dropped off almost in half. But the great news, and commercial would be a business. That's a restaurant, that's a bookstore, that's an office building, it's a school, it's a gym, anything basically that's not a home as our commercial activity. So you can see that the commercial activity did come back in 2021, not quite to pre-pandemic levels, but still good to see that recovery. And then I wanted to dig into what's driving the residential. So next slide, please. And here you can see it's primarily been apartments, but we also see strong growth in our single family, as well as multifamily and residential commercial combination. So a residential commercial combination, that would be an apartment building with retail in the basement, on the first floor. So that's commercial combo. And you can see those were particularly strong in 2019, the residential commercial combination, but then it dropped a little bit in 2020 and 2021. But the most, obviously the strongest growth areas and the strongest units are in our apartments and our single family units, as those continue to grow. What do we see on the horizon? I've read, certainly interest rates are coming up. And so that could decrease the buying power of the market, which might slow down single family homes. I don't believe that would slow down apartments, because I think we still have demand in the region. There's still need for additional housing. So I've certainly seen some predictions that it may slow down a bit. There was 2 weeks ago, the Strib had an article that there was less permits getting pulled. But I don't think that I don't think we're at capacity yet in terms of how many housing units does the region need. So I think we're going to continue to see growth in that. And so we are optimistic, other than keeping our eye on when does the recession hit and exactly where does that impact it. Next slide, please. So just as an overall conclusion or summaries, so the pandemic really didn't slow our residential development at all. Commercial development dropped off a little bit, but it is recovering. Again, rising interest rates, I think they're predicting a 1/4 to 0.5% increase at the next quarterly meeting, may slow some of that residential development, but generally residential development is on about a 2 to 3 year lead time. So unless they knew 2 years ago that interest rates were going to go up, I think you're still going to see that upward trend for at least another couple of years, if it drops off at all. And then our SAC reserve, very healthy. So we're going to use that as a tool to absorb our recession when it comes, without increasing our rates. So kind of a motorcycle through the Louvre report there, but I thought it was some really great, exciting numbers and wanted to share it with the team. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
Motorcycle through the Louvre. I like that. Bull in a china shop, motorcycle through the Louvre. Either one works. That's great. I'll open it up for questions, but I'll start. I think it's been maybe 6 or 7 years since the SAC task force that Councilmember Wolf chaired, and I'm thinking, since we touch base with our ratepayers regularly, and it doesn't seem like there's a need to crack open the case again and reshuffle the way that we do SAC. And it seems like it's working pretty well. I know I haven't heard a lot of people grumbling about it, but your thoughts or the committee's thoughts, or especially Councilmember Wolf, your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll start, Chair Lindstrom and members of the committee. Yes, fun. So that was, we started in 2016 near the end, and we ended in early 2018. And the biggest change there was how we changed going from net square feet to gross square feet. So it was basically just looking at the footprint of the building. Since we have implemented that, my phone does not ring nearly as much as it used to. And so I think that has been a huge help. It's much more intuitive. And honestly, a lot of your remodels haven't resulted in any charges. We have not seen, obviously, as you can see from the reports, not a huge decline in our overall units. I think we're still seeing good growth. So I think it has been positive. We have been doing those some informal check-ins with our customers, not only through our budget forums, but also as we've worked through some of the pandemic issues. We've had meetings with about around 10 communities, maybe 16 representatives, that help us think through. We've been working on outdoor seating during the pandemic. So when the governor shut down indoors and moved outdoors, how do we track that and how do we think about that? And fundamentally, what at the request of our customers, we basically delayed collecting outdoor SAC if it was temporary. So if you put a tent in the parking lot, we have not been charging SAC for that. Now, as the as the finish line kept moving for the end of the pandemic, we've kept pushing that date out for when are we going to start collecting. But and right now, that date is the end of 2022. So we are going to let people figure out what the new norm is. Let people figure out what kind of outdoor patio seating do they want to make permanent. And I still am confident that the science behind that justifies it. Usually you charge for a patio because you've increased the overall capacity of the restaurant. I believe that during a pandemic, that's not the case. People actually are going outside rather than sitting inside. So I don't think you're seeing it's packed indoors and outdoors. Obviously, there is a couple of exceptions. You know, St. Patrick's Day is coming up. I'm sure there'll be bars that are full inside and out. But for 99% of our customers, I do believe that there's honestly reduced capacity demanded indoors and outdoors. So I am comfortable that we can take 9 more months really to let the market figure out what's the right number and what's the right to make a permanent outdoor patio. So we are still checking in with our customers in that respect. I think there's always opportunity to make things better. I would love to see I think we should be open to another task force. Again, I'm not exactly sure what questions we would ask, but I don't want to say we're done. I think there's always an opportunity. And with that, I will call that an answer.
And it's a good one. Thank you. Councilmember Wolf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with Ned. I was involved in the discussions about the temporary outdoor seating stuff in my role as the SAC lady of the region. I I don't see any burning issues right now that we need to work on. Things have been pretty relatively happy and stable, which is nice. I came onto the council. I've got a dog that's pushing a bone around on the tile floor, so I hope it's not making too much noise. But I came onto the council in 2009. So when you look at those graphs, the bottom where everything fell apart, that's when I started. And I remember thinking, I don't know if we'll ever get above 17,000 SAC a year ever again, you know, when we were trying to figure out the future. But I do have to pat myself on the back because I was the one to say go to 0 SAC increase the first time. Staff suggested a small increase because they were still nervous. And I said, let's just go for 0 and see what happens. We can always raise it next year if it doesn't work out. And it's worked out spectacularly. So I'm really, really happy about that we're in a good, solid position now. I did have one question though, on the residential development trends slide where you have apartment, single family, multifamily, and combination. Is multifamily anything that's ownership, like condos and townhouses and stuff, or does that include rental townhouses?
Chair Lindstrom and Councilmember Wolf, I believe that would be anything that is a few of them stuck together, regardless of what the ownership model is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? I've got a quick one. I think there used to be, or maybe there still is, a program, and maybe it's city by city where the business can defer payment, SAC payment. Is that still a thing? How does that work? How many people take advantage of that?
Councilmember Lindstrom and members of the committee, yes, it is very much still a thing. It is on a city by city basis because each city must sign their own agreement. So it has to go to the city council and the mayor has to sign it, and then we sign it over here. And we should put it in the minutes what the exact number is, but I'd say we have 20 to 30 cities that are on that program. And the number of customers would be in the hundreds, I believe. I need to verify that information. But yeah, we consider it very successful. It is for small to medium businesses. And I believe currently, I believe that's defined as 25 SAC units or less is what you can defer. We also do have a residential deferral program, but that's only for a home that was not on the Metropolitan disposal system and has been informed that they must be on the Metropolitan disposal system. Specifically in Lake Elmo, there will be some properties that are served by a citywide septic or a small city treatment system that will then be converted to the Metropolitan disposal system. And when you do that, you've connected the system, so you have to pay SAC. But we do have a deferral program available for residential as well, but it's only for existing housing stock that is transferring to the system. But yes, the business one is very successful. It especially helps with the small mom and pops. The majority of the loans are not for people with 20. It's for people with 1 or 2 SAC units.
Seems like that's a good way to spread the pain over 5 years, maybe with a little bit of interest tacked on. Councilmember Wolf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to comment that over the last however many years I've been here now, there have been a lot of changes to SAC, and they have all been in the direction of being more responsive to our customer needs and making the program fairer and easier to understand for the people that we're serving. And I'm really proud of that. Staff has done a great job of working towards being a more responsive entity, which doesn't happen very often in government, but ES does a great job with that.
Something we should all strive for across the council. No question about it. And they do, of course.
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Wolf and Chair Lindstrom. It's been my favorite saying is it's really fun to just ask, because I get much better ideas than I could ever come up with. So our city partners have been outstanding partners to help us figure out how to make it better. I also do want to acknowledge the outstanding work of Jessie Nye, who is our SAC program manager, as well as her team. And the transition to telework has been absolutely flawless for the SAC team. There's been no change in customer service. So I appreciate Jessie's leadership and the hard work of her team.
If I can hop in here, Chair Lindstrom, and offer,
Please.
we've also brought that flexibility to SAC within our industries. So there's some part of our permitting process, and it's that same aspect of thinking about the situation the industry is facing and finding a way to help them, but not, giving them a free pass either. So it's really more of that flexibility piece.
Good point. Councilmember Zirin.
Thank you, Chair Lindstrom. I have a question for Mr. Smith. In Minneapolis, things have changed where folks can put like a mother-in-law flat or have a little rental unit within the property. Has that changed the SAC? Is there any correlation there? I don't really know how successful that program is. And if somebody puts on a unit, in that scenario, do they get charged SAC?
Chair Lindstrom and Councilmember Zirin, what a fantastic question, which is a short way of saying, I'm not sure I know the answer. Intuitively, I would think if you built a unit over a garage, an accessory dwelling unit, and that would be a separate apartment, but it would be treated like an apartment But I need to do some research and understand. I would think an apartment would have a SAC unit. We do offer discounts if you do not have a washing machine in the unit, and an accessory dwelling unit might not have a washing machine. I'm not sure. And I need to see if that applies to ADUs or if that only applies to entire apartment developed complexes. So let me do some research and get back on that one.
Councilmember Wolf may have some insight on that. Yeah.
No, I agree that that's a fantastic question that I don't have the answer to, but it's challenging because they're not always rented out. You may just have your kid living over the garage so you don't have to hear their drums or something. So there's a gray area there.
That's great. All right. Anything else on this topic? Good job as always, Ned. Appreciate the update.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members of the committee.
All right. The general manager's report. And there she is.
I've got another short update on our wastewater COVID research. I think when we started down this road, we saw great potential in the work in terms of offering value, but I certainly don't think we imagined that we would set such a high bar in an area of work that was so unfamiliar for us. We established a really great partnership with the university, another example of government working with government to serve our communities better. But I have to say that just because of the nature of all this, never underestimate the power of a group of folks united for a shared purpose, something that they believe in, because truly there's been some exceptional results and teamwork that's gone into achieving what we have with this wastewater COVID testing. The interest and usefulness in that information continues to grow. We're hearing from more Department of Health folks wanting quicker access to our data. We send it to the state every week, and we're getting engagement on the results. So it's great to see that we have another way to add value and service to this region. I have to also brag a bit because I thought when I shared our number of page views the last time, that would be kind of the plateau of it, but the COVID research page had 16,722 page views in February, which followed by our homepage was under 10,000, 9,867 to be exact.
The homepage of the Met Council?
Yes, it's pretty astronomical. One of our seasoned communication staff who's been around a long time remarked that they don't ever recall a single page getting that much activity in a single month, with the possible exception of there might have been an HRA open sign up period at one point that came into that level of page views. So, I mean, I think it also says something about the pandemic and how it's been central to so much of our life for far too long. And so we're hoping we're going to move on, you know, to less of this. But I will say that our testing now shows that this Omicron subvariant BA2 is making up an increasing percentage of the load. So it's something we need to keep a close eye on. It went from 5% one week to 10% the next. So like when Delta came in and started to double, it soon overtook the old variant. So this BA2 is something that I think our wastewater testing can help us stay ahead of the curve and be informed about. And hopefully,
that's great. I mean, it's great that people are.
It just fades out, right?
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. But it's good that folks are using this this amazing resource. I remember, you know, a year and a half ago when we were just talking about this, different partnerships. And it's great that it's being so valuable for the public. Because it's, I mean, the word is getting out not just through our website, but there's been some great articles in the in the media recently about just what you were talking about, the increase in the BA2 variant.
Yes.
Councilmember Fredson.
Thank you, Chair. General Manager, is the plan to continue to test weekly, moving on, weeks or months or even into future years? Or are you thinking that you would sunset the program? It just, my observation is maybe in the fall, when we anticipate a potential variant or spike again, just kind of being on the front end of that. So just curious to know what the plan is in terms of keeping the program moving forward or testing moving forward.
That is actually the big question is what does this look like going forward? Pandemic settles down. Do we keep the capability? Does the Department of Health want to have some kind of ongoing ability to look at what's going on in the viral community in our wastewater? We're looking at proposing that idea and getting feedback even from our customer communities. We've got our budget coming up. We thought maybe a survey would be a good way. We've had a few communities actually reach out and want to know if we could provide a different breakdown in that data so they could kind of more zero in on their areas. So there is additional inquiries about this and interest in this. And of course, we always want to make sure that what we do shouldn't be just pure research. It should be applicable so that the revenue that supports that is supported by those that are paying us. So we'll set that process up to explore that and see what we put together for a program and whether we sustain it or bring it back as needed.
Great question. Anything else? Going once, going twice. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Great. Yeah,
Have a
thank
great
you, Mr. Chair.
afternoon.
Great.